Well, who could have seen this coming? In the end, pretty much everyone. Hello, everyone. Jonathan here, and I thank you for tuning in to this week's news wrap up, where we talk about all the video game news of the week, just to try and keep you updated and informed about everything that's going on. As always, every story I discuss is time stamped in the description box down below, so feel free to scroll down and jump to a story that interests you. Have a few things to discuss. We have a couple of game release updates. We got a little bit of maybe positive news out of Xbox and some shenanigans over at World of Warcraft. Yeah, the game's still going. But before we get to all that, we're going to talk about our cover story. And this is what we gamers were talking about. This is what we feared all along. So let's get into it. Like I said in my intro, there is literally no one who didn't see this coming. This Dual Shockers article from Friday, the 24th of July, references the PSN outage of that day, and it says the latest PlayStation Network outage is exactly why gamers don't trust Sony's all-digital future. This article goes on to relate that the outage lasted from anywhere from 5 to 8 hours, depending. People were unable to log into the PlayStation Network. Many couldn't even get to a login screen. And the problem with that is there are certain games that require a constant online internet connection and a constant PSN connection. And we're not just talking about games, multiplayer games, which is understandable, but also games that have a multiplayer component that maybe have a single player campaign like Gran Turismo 7. You can't play that without the connection because it's got live service elements in it, and they're constantly trying to keep you online to make sure there's no duping and market issues and things like that. And this just is another black eye for Sony, coming on the heels of their physical media kind of a bad PR. A lot of people are saying in the long run it's not going to affect them. I don't know if that's true or not. I do know it's been a bad look for them, and this is exactly why. And some people would argue that, oh, well, even with the physical copy, you still need to be online to verify the copy and so on. And I agree, which is why the discussion, I think physical media versus digital media is important. I'll get to the reasons why in a second. I think it's also important to talk about the true ownership concept of games. Because this outage here is just a sheer demonstration of what can happen when a company says, we want to turn off your access to your library. It takes that, a click, and they can turn it off and brick your machine remotely. Maybe not literally brick it, but they can, push firmware updates that render certain games unplayable or your entire library if you've become a problem. And if you hear a little booming, we're having a thunderstorm right now, so don't mind that. And that is an issue. I say that there's also an issue with physical media as well, because I think what ultimately these companies want to do is they want to get everybody into an ecosystem where you're streaming games and you don't download anything. And I'm actually going to do a video later this week on that, where I'm going to kind of run through a few things. That is what they want to do, because they don't want you to have a copy of the game. If you don't have a copy of the game, you can't sail the high seas or crack it and give it to people and those type of things. They want to keep all the control with them and parcel out what entertainment you get and basically keep charging you for it. My plea to all gamers out there, whether you're young, old, new, experienced, casual, or hardcore, start finding ways to keep your games. That's all I can ask of you. That's all I can tell you, because if you don't, well, you're ultimately going to lose them. I would say to get physical discs, especially ones that start looking at retro gaming and playing old games. Consider emulation. Consider good old games where you can download the files and keep them on a separate hard drive. There was a guy the other day who was making basically Steam cartridges for Steam games out of old SSDs, and I wish I still had the link to the article. But start looking at ways you can preserve games, because ultimately, I don't know how long we're going to have the option to play the way we're playing right now. But anyway, Sony had another PSN outage, another one. This is on top of all the freaking cracks they've had against their database, all the leakages and all the hacked, the network's been hacked multiple times and all kinds of information's been stolen. So if you love gaming, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Okay, and speaking of PlayStation, here's another potential casualty to their marketing decision to stop physical production. And this IGN article is also from Friday the 24th. Tomb Raider Catalyst delayed to 2028, confirmed by Amazon Games boss. They say it's been delayed to 2028. It was set for 2027, but it's not going to. Legacy of Atlantis, which is kind of the remaster-ish of the first game, is due out on February 12th of the next year, so about 6 months from now. And then they said Atlantis comes on February 12th of next year, will follow in 2028 with the new one. Okay, so that's on the surface is not a big deal. Game gets delayed. I'd rather them take a little extra time to make sure it's fully baked than to put it back out. As somebody who loves the Tomb Raider franchise, I'm hoping that's good. We're just going to wait and see. And just in general, as an aside, my faith in modern AAA video gaming is not high. So I'm not expecting a whole lot. If it's good, I'll be happy to play it. But if it's not, I will kind of be prepared for it, if that makes sense. And it doesn't have to do with specific issues or studios or anti-wokeness, any of that kind of stuff. It just has to do with the fact that a lot of AAA studios just aren't making good games right now. So anyway, but the thing that comes out of this that is kind of interesting to me, as even in the comment section of this very article, people are saying, well, there goes that. I was planning on getting this game physically, and now I'm not going to be able to. And I think the reality for people who, I think it's all been kind of, people have been upset about it, but it's also been, it's 16, 18 months down the road before this starts to become a problem. I think they're starting to see now as games that they were interested in getting on physical, they're not going to. And I think anybody for whom this is an issue, it's going to become even more real the closer we get to that date. Well, I say this with my tongue in my cheek, but it looks like next February is going to be Girl Boss February, because hot on the heels of the announcement that Lara Croft's Atlantis, the Legacy of Atlantis, is going to be coming out on February 12th. We have this article from Video Game Chronicle from Saturday, July 25th. It says PlayStation confirms God of War Laufey release date and return of Kratos in the next game. And that release date is February 16th, as highlighted right here. When I look at the calendar, that's a Friday to the following Tuesday. So if you wanted to get the most out of both games, you'd have about 3 days to go burn through Legacy of Atlantis before this one came out. They also said that the studio head of Santa Monica Studio, which is a subsidiary of Sony, announced the next God of War will connect directly with the Laufey story and star Kratos. And I read somewhere else that this all came out during San Diego Comic-Con, which was going on this weekend. And I read somewhere else that they did say that the next God of War game after Laufey is already in production. So, just an FYI to let you know that February you have these new entries and these long-beloved franchises are coming out. And I can't tell any of you how to feel about these things. I'm just giving you the information. And I know how I feel about Tomb Raider because like I said, I'm a longtime fan. I have never actually played God of War in any of its incarnations, so I don't really have a good opinion. However, now you know when it's coming, and if you're interested, you can go check it out. And the last update on new games, it's really just more kind of an interest item, is this Game Rant article from Friday the 24th. New Kingdom Come game title finally revealed by trademark. And it essentially says that Kingdom Come Salvation has been trademarked through the same Prague agency that was used to trademark Kingdom Come Deliverance and the first and second games. So that people are taking that to mean this may be the title of their upcoming game. They've said that they want to have this game out sometime, I think in the second half of next year. So I think if that is the case, we should expect to see some more information coming about Warhorse's new game. They're working on this and apparently also working on a Lord of the Rings title. So they've got their hands full, but Kingdom Come and Kingdom Come Deliverance, 1 and 2 have both done really well. So I'm sure there's a lot of interest in the third one. This article suggests we might get some more information at Gamescom, which is about a month from the posting of this video. So, well, we shall see. But anyway, that may be the new title of the next open world RPG from Warhorse. I'm here for it. Okay, we're going to dip over and talk about Xbox now for a little bit. And this article comes from gamesindustry.biz, and it is from Wednesday the 22nd. Despite Xbox console sales doubling year over year, hardware sales across the U.S. are down 62%. And basically, they come down here in the article and they can say that revenue is down across all segments of gaming, 62% hardware, 12% software, and 21% accessories. That the former toggled the furthest, dropping from $1 billion in June of 2025 to just $383 million later, most attributable to the release of the Switch 2 last June. So there's a little bit to this. On the surface, you want to look at it and say, well, maybe Xbox is making some of the right decisions and they're forging ahead. At the same time, comparing this June to last June, when last June had the Switch 2 released, meaning that's where everybody's attention and money was going, plus the fact that Xbox has announced that the Xbox Series X and S are going up in price as of August 1st. So people who were thinking about it or on the fence are probably out buying them now. I'm not sure that this is immediately, I mean, it's kind of painted as, oh, this looks like a win for Xbox. I mean, it's good for them that they're selling more sales. And of course, what I immediately thought is, does all of their aggressive reprioritization have anything to do with this? It's too early to tell, really. Now, if you are a nuts and bolts kind of person and really want to get into this, I'm going to link this article from techinsider.org. This has a very in-depth analysis. This was just posted on Saturday, July 25th. A very in-depth analysis of the change, from year over year. It gives a little bit less rosy picture for Xbox, but if you really want to get into it, you can see all of their analysis. I'm not sure I agree with it 100%, but I think they make a lot of good points. And when you come all the way down, if you just want, a too long didn't read, they have a frequently asked questions, which summarizes most of the rest of the article. Anyway, I will link this down below if you're curious about this. The other thing that came from Xbox this week is what's told in this article from PC Gamer from Wednesday the 22nd. Microsoft is bringing original Xbox exclusives to PC for the first time, starting with 4 classic games. Xbox backward compatibility on PC, as it's known, is now live. And so this is another move by Xbox where they're trying to expand their reach and they're bringing these games back. And these are the 4 games that they said they're going to be starting with. Blinks, The Time Sweeper, Conquer Live and Reloaded, Crimson Skies, and Fusion Frenzy. Not games I'm super familiar with at all. I've only heard of 3 of them, and I've never played any of them. However, this is what Xbox has started with. And they said that the Xbox Vice President of Next Generation, Jason Ronald, said this marks the beginning of a broader effort to preserve Xbox games from the past and bring them to PC over time. They confirmed these are going to run with on PC versus emulation. So you need something a little more powerful than an OG Xbox console, but there's the minimum and recommended system specs. They're not overwhelmingly powerful. You don't have to go out and buy a beefy computer to run these. And so that's kind of what they're starting with, is these games. It's not what I'd call an overwhelming lineup. Really, for me, it sounds good, but the question is what happens next? Are we going to start seeing more original Xbox exclusives show up on PC as part of preservation? So this is one of those things where I say you've taken your first step. Let me know when you've walked, half a mile, and we'll get back to you on what we think your progress is. So anyway, this is just something to be aware of too. If you're a fan of some of the original gangster Xbox games, they may be coming to a PC soon near you. I think this article is just brought to us by the Department of Dumbassery. This is from PC Games In, and this is from... it was originally posted, I think, on Tuesday the 21st, but updated on Friday. Blizzard confirms that World of Warcraft GM is no longer with the company following a Mythic Plus cheating incident. Blizzard has responded to a report of a game's GM using an insta-kill ability in a Mythic dungeon to meet its timer requirement. And when you go through this basically the upshot of it is a player went to a GM who he was apparently friends with and said, "Hey, listen, bro, this monster, we're going to run out of time to get our timer. We can't kill it. Can you just one-shot it for me?" And the GM did. And this may not have been an isolated incident, may have happened more than once. So clearly, wiping out raid bosses to assist your friends get a record seems like it'd be pretty high up on the no list for an admin in a game in an MMORPG. So the GM is no longer with the company. Blizzard says they're taking action against the players that were involved in this directly. Everybody all the way around this was stupid, and it's an FAFO moment, if ever there was one. Well, it's another week, so it's another chance to hound Bungie and Marathon. And I hate to even use that term because I really don't want this game to fail. I don't want any game that players are enjoying to fail. The sad truth is that some of them are going to, and some of those that fail, we can see coming a mile away. Anyway, this PC Gamer article from Tuesday the 21st, Marathon's experimental PvE mode is lied, immediately tripling its daily player count. Factually true. However, we're talking about that they moved from 5 to 15,000 players. Okay, and it says today's Bungie launched Marathon's update featuring its awaited Vault Breaker experimental PvE mode, which offers a 2-week window for players to contend with in-game type maps. And it says here that Vault Breaker trades Marathon's typical extraction loot for an alternative progression scheme. You don't go out, you leave with the equipment, you extract out. Instead, the goal is to loot vault data that can be used for persistent upgrades to your initial Vault Breaker kit, or spin on gear carried into standard runs, offering a more roguelite framework for Bungie's gameplay, which is about the best way I've heard it described. So they've got this 2-week experimental mode. How's it going? Well, we're going to go look, and here we are on Marathon's page, and they got up to about 15,000 players, and then down to 10,000, and 8,000, and 8,000, and 7,000. Into the weekend, they're getting 7,000 players, which is only a little bit above the 5,000 players they were getting in a day before this mode launched. And at the end of the 2 weeks, it's going to be back to where it was, if not lower. Now, like I said, I don't want games to fail because there are people that are enjoying this. Unfortunately, there aren't enough to keep it afloat, and I don't think they're bringing in enough new players. I see people all the time saying, I'd try it if it wasn't $40, because they're afraid they're going to try it and they won't like it. Or if they had a demo period. I know a lot of people played during the free, was it a week they had last month? But, the numbers tailed off again immediately after that. I think last week was the first time that I said that I thought this game was actually doomed. I kind of held off on saying it. I really was hoping things would get better for the people that enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I think it is doomed. I don't think there's any way this game recovers now. It's just not pulling in enough money to sustain a live service. I think Bungie's ultimate role at this point, and I hate to say this, but I think they're going to end up being a support studio for other studios under Sony, at least in the short term, because they don't have another game out there. They don't have anything in the pipeline, and they just laid off half their workforce. So even if they started working on something today, it's not going to have anything out for at least 3 years, and probably more like 5 or 6. So what are they going to be doing in the interim? I cannot believe Sony's going to continue to throw money after them. Again, this is just the sad reality of a storied game studio that had a really, really good legacy. I just think this is where they're headed. Well, this is the shit show we are living in now. This article comes to us from PC Games In from the 21st on Tuesday. LG monitors are now reportedly sneaking adware onto your PC. Now, I'm going to say up front, all of this is alleged, that LG is being accused of this by some other party. I am merely reporting on this news. I am personally not accusing LG of anything. They say an investigation by Gamers Nexus into LG monitors shows the quiet installation of a tool causing pop-up adverts without asking users first, and then the following day they actually got a comment from LG. They're facing fresh backlash from users due to its monitors reportedly installing adware without asking users for permission. People who are using various models from the LG's UltraGear monitor line have claimed they are finding a monitor app installer showing up on their PCs, which is then being used to display adverts for projects such as McAfee. They said down here, Adware was our, this is the Games Nexus host Steve Burke, Adware was our thanks for spending $1,200 with LG. He notes that once the app is installed, LG has permission to use all system resources, access your internet connection, collect geolocation device data, activity, contact data, user credentials, transaction data, and more. So pretty much the same as every intrusive spyware he's alleging that they're doing. Okay? And this is despite installing and running without ever asking the user or even prompting them for consent at any stage in the pipeline. And it goes down here, talks about how you should discover this and look for it and so on. Burke also notes that LG has been facing backlash on the TV side of the market, where a recent update included AI-based service terms addressing its voice recognition tools. Basically, they said that the user has responsibility to obtain necessary consent from third parties. Basically, if you have guests visiting, you've got to let them know your conversations might be recorded and processed by your television. They actually had to reach a settlement in Texas over this issue. Now here, the next day, LG responded. It's LG Electronics reiterates McAfee is not installed automatically and is never installed without user consent. McAfee. They're talking a lot about McAfee and very much honing in on that incident and not the wider problem here. Then they say the LG Monitor app installer does not access, collect, or transmit any customer personal data. That is where I say press X to doubt, because all these companies claim that, and then they always seem to know stuff they shouldn't know. So I don't know if LG is actually doing this, but it is becoming clear to me we, as PC users, we can't even trust our hardware anymore. You have to be vigilant. You have to be your own self-guardian on these things. I'm going to finish with this story because you know me and you know I love an indie success tale. And I think we have one here in this article from Saturday, 25th of July from Insider Gaming. Dinoblade sells 36,000 copies on Steam in just 24 hours. Okay, this game, which is literally about playing as a dinosaur with a giant sword in your mouth and fighting other reptiles doing the same thing in a Souls-like type of environment, it released on Thursday, the 23rd. So it's by the time this video is posted, it'll have been out for about not quite 3 days. And it said Dinoblade was recently released on Steam. It was developed by Team Spino, which is founded by a guy named Jean Nguyen, I think that's how you say his name, is a senior gameplay animator at Sucker Punch also. And basically, this dude made this game on his own. He was an animator there. People loved his animation so much. He said, well, I'm going to go ahead and make the game. I think it's an Unreal 5 engine. And like I said, he sold 36,000 copies in the first day. I'm going to bet he's over 50,000 now because this game has gotten some traction. It's been covered by a couple of major streamers. The person who has the top review on Steam on it right now is part of the same curator review group I'm in. And he basically said, if you boil down his review, he said the game's got a lot of jank and a lot of problems, but the cool factor outweighs a lot of it. You got a dinosaur that's doing backflips and hitting other dinosaurs with a sword in its mouth. And, well, what's not to love? Game's sitting at about an 89%. As far as I know, it's only available on Steam right now. It's sitting at about an 89% positive, which is pretty good. And it's got 1,000 reviews as of the posting or making of this segment on Saturday night. So, if you like Souls-likes and you want to go check it out, go check it out. I think it's on sale right now for $18. It is pretty short. I think people are saying they're finished in six hours or so. But, if you want to do that, help out a small creator. I believe for being encouraged by the success, this will not be this guy's last game, and he will probably make the next one, take what he learned from it and make it better. So, anyway, like I said, I love a success story, and if the 5-year-old in me thinks a dinosaur with a sword is just badass, so go check it out. On that happy note, I am going to call this video to a close. As always, I request if you enjoyed this video, please do the YouTube stuff to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell so you're notified the next time a Quick Bird News, for all your gaming updates is coming out. I post these every Sunday, so just as a reminder, you can do that. And as always, I always like to know what y'all are thinking about any of the stories I talked about, so leave a comment. Let's have a little dialogue, talk about some of these things. I really just like to talk about the games industry and specific games, so let me know what you're thinking down there. I will be back next week with more news updates for that week. We'll talk about what's going on in the gaming industry. I'm going to try and get that video out about what I think is happening with games going to cloud streaming and why I think it's a major problem. I'm going to try and get that out this week. May not do it. I am on the planning committee for our local book festival, and that's happening this coming Saturday. And so I'm going to be pretty busy this week getting all that finalized. But if not, I will get that video out eventually. Anyway, that's enough out of me. So I will be back next week. Until then, thank you for tuning in. Y'all go out there, live your best lives, and y'all stay gaming.